fans of the Horus Heresy, resin miniatures in the Age of Darkness, and being able to get all the models you would like from Forge World. Thank you very much for joining me for a brief video to discuss the recent withdrawal of some Forge World products from their web store. And I'm calling this video The Ghost of Last Chance to Buy, so somewhat Dickensian in its titling. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm just going to share a few quick thoughts about the withdrawal of some recent models, and I'm going to use, as you can see on screen now, the example of the Solar Auxilia Aurochs armoured transport, which is now no longer available. It is gone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a bit of history. As you all know, I've been following this story since 2017, when the first Last Chance to Buy occurred with Forge World through to present. And I'm just going to give you some views on this and try to suggest some ideas about what our expectations should be with regards to communication from Forge World on the withdrawal of models in the future. So yes, I'm making this video mainly in response to a number of comments I've had on social media. So without further ado, let us get into this. So firstly, let's start with the facts. So now, 2020, July, a number of models have gone out of production following the reopening of the Forge World web store, including the Aurochs armoured transport for the Horus Heresy. Of course, the Forge World web store was temporarily shut down in April as a consequence of the UK lockdown to businesses caused by the coronavirus epidemic in this country. That is what has happened now. And from what I've seen, there are a lot of 40k Forge World models that have gone out of production this year. So for example, I believe a Land Raider Prometheus variant has. So yes, that's what's happened. What do I think about this? Well, to answer that question, I need to take you through the history of Last Chance to Buy, or certainly the recent history of this. So the first Last Chance to Buy started in April 2017, and Forge World has withdrawn models on an annual basis since then. In the first Last Chance to Buy, there was a huge number of kits that were withdrawn from the Horus Heresy range, and the one that will continually be remembered and brought back to remind Forge World until they do something about it is the loss of Mark II Marine Squads. Last Chance to Buy happened again in 2018 with a few more products being withdrawn. The general trend on these products being withdrawn is they are, let's say, things that are not essential or unique to the Heresy range. Not entirely, because there have been some outliers and I address that in depth in other videos, but in general it's been non-unique stuff, i.e. things that is covered elsewhere in their range. In both 2017 and 2018, email notifications were sent to mailing list customers, and this withdrawal of products was also indicated on the website. In 2017, the campaign was phased over a number of months, and customers were given, I think it was typically a 2-week ordering period in which to place an order that would then be retrospectively fulfilled once the products had been made. And indeed, I placed a large order back in 2017 to that end. In 2019, and then again in this year, 2020, emails were not sent out to mailing list customers, and nor were Last Chance to Buy products highlighted on the Forge World web store. So it kind of happened by stealth. So the mechanism of this, I suppose I could say that's a bit loaded language to say happened by stealth. What happened was the miniatures just went out of production, and once the last one was sold, then it just went on the website to no longer available status. So there was no indication to customers it was coming. Those are the facts and the history to this, and I think it's important to remember those with what I'm going to talk to you about next. What's going on here? Well, in my view, each year Forge World has decided, probably due to pressure from Games Workshop overall, I believe this is linked to business profitability for their storage and their catalogue operations in general. Basically, Forge World is doing a top and tail exercise, and the bottom 5%, say, of the range in terms of profitability is being cut to free up space for new, more profitable models. And as I said before, this seems to be happening somewhere in the April to July window. I think this will continue to happen in the years going forward, because when you consider it from a business perspective, which I outlined a moment ago, you can see why it would be done. I also think that customers of Forge World will not get any notification that this will happen, ever now. The reason for this was a consequence of how they conducted the original 2017 Last Chance to Buy campaign. It created a lot of discussion, noise, and indeed criticism from within the customer base, and as well social media commentators. And I was one of those. I certainly did question their strategy here. While they did some things right, in terms of giving people a chance to order models for, say, the 2-week period. And that was a good thing because it meant everyone had a chance to get something before it was no longer available. The big criticism of them then, and this is a criticism that survives through to this day and has never been addressed by Forge World or Warhammer community team, is why are these models being withdrawn? And back in 2017, with the number of kits that were withdrawn and the way in which it was done, it understandably caused a lot of concern that this was some sort of beginning of the end for the Horus Heresy range. Now, it wasn't, but I think that Forge World and the Warhammer community team, brackets GW, PR and marketing, they got so burnt by that experience, they've decided to adopt the current strategy of saying nothing, as it is a path of least resistance. So that is my view on this, and that is what I think that all customers of Forge World can expect in the future. What does that mean? Well, I can't tell you what to buy and what not to buy. And of course, when you're spending money on expensive hobby goods, for some people certainly, I won't presume to make a recommendation to anyone about what they should or should not do. But I will observe this, that if there's something in Forge World's range that isn't completely unique or covered by a potential model elsewhere in either Games Workshop's or Forge World's range, then there is a potential it doesn't sell well enough and it gets withdrawn. And this year's example, the Aurochs Armoured Transport, very much fits that bill. It was an add-on to the Solar Auxilia army list, and it is in effect a variant Rhino. Now, I love the model. I think it was really cool that Forge World made this model and released it. At the same time, it's hardly an essential. It's definitely in the nice-to-have category. And the same is true to a slightly lesser degree, but in general it still holds sway for last year's loss, which was a macro-carried Explorator. Again, the macro-carried Explorator is a really nice Mechanicum take on what is essentially a Land Raider. Now, I thought that was an ace model and it was cool that it was in the range, but clearly it wasn't cool enough to sell enough to justify its existence. Yeah, that would be my general thoughts on this. I mean, what would cause me to alter that outlook and position? Well, if things like prime art or unique units such as, let's say, any of the Legion-specific models like, say, the Gal Vorbak, the Cacophony, the Varangian Terminators, any of these unique Legion units or unique characters, if those went out of production, then I'll be more concerned. Because then it's a question of, well, this is something that's kind of like pivotal to that army, so why is it gone? That is a model that is key to a player being able to build that army list, and there are really no alternatives to one or to them. So if that were to happen, then that would be a matter of more concern towards me. But yes, so that's my view. It's a bit of a mess. It's not ideal, but hey, we don't live in an ideal world, so sometimes reality is a strange and peculiar thing. Anyway, I hope you found those thoughts interesting and insightful. As always, please do share your polite observations and comments in this video's reply section. I'll be interested to hear, as always. But other than that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.